It is the Sophie Martin Show on NEWHD, here with one of our very good friends, Cat Ridgeway. So, what was life like growing up in Florida, and did you ever visit Disney World at some point during your childhood?
Oh, heck yes, I did. I think I had a pirate costume from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and I used to wear that all the time. Disney's definitely everywhere, especially when you're a little kid down here. And growing up down here was actually awesome because I was really close to the beach, and I would go to the beach all the time with my mom. And yeah, there's just a lot of really cool natural ecosystems down here too. Like we have the aquifers and spring systems and stuff. So I spent a lot of time in the water, and I still do.
What inspired you to become a songwriter?
You know, it's one of those things I really feel like it chose me. I feel like I didn't really have much of a choice. I remember learning how to play guitar when I was in about fifth grade, and I didn't really know how to play anything yet. And so when you don't know how to play anything, you just start kind of noodling around and figuring out what sounds okay. And in the process of doing that, I would come up with these little things, and I was like, oh, I kind of like that thing I just came up with. I don't know what's happening, but it sounds kind of cool. And I felt like I just fell into songwriting. I just kind of discovered it very organically. And once you kind of get a taste of that feeling that comes from creating something out of nothing, I consider it a superpower. I think it is so cool, and it's the most addicting and exhilarating thing. And then as I grew in songwriting, getting to share that with co-writing partners and have that experience with someone else and see them get as excited as I am when we start down a road and seeing that it's leading somewhere. It's the best job in the world. And I don't know, I've just always loved stories. I've loved people, and I've loved connecting with people through those things. And songwriting is just a really elegant way to do all of those things at once.
Are there any instruments that you've always wanted to play?
Yeah, actually, I have a saxophone that my grandfather handed down to me. And I've always been a brass player. I play trumpet, and back in the day, I played a good bit of trombone as well. And I've always wanted to make the leap over to woodwinds and learn how to play that sax. So one day, I got to go get it refurbished.
Which album will be the latest that you'll release?
Well, I just put out a new record called Nice to Meet You, and I'm actually very excited. It's been going really well so far, and people seem to dig it, which is just amazing. When you start writing a record, it's really more just for yourself. So when people enjoy it, that's really cool. As far as the next thing, I have a few songs that are kind of in reserves, and I have an idea of where the next record might land, but I don't have a name for it yet, and I'm not entirely sure what the timeline looks like yet. But there is new stuff coming. There's always new stuff coming.
How much fun did you have when writing the song Giving You Up, and what is it about?
I had a lot of fun writing this song, but I also had a lot of moments where I was honestly a little bit confused by that song. I say all the time, but so much of being a songwriter is not writing the song. It's being willing to listen to the song and letting the song guide you where it wants to go. And I think the bridge of that song is a prime example of that, because it's like a runaway train and then it comes back to home base. And I just remember being very excited once I figured out that bridge section, because that was what really tied everything together. And that was one of those times, and I don't feel like this super often, but I remember running downstairs from the studio and being like, Mom, Dad, listen to this. I think I did something. And yeah, so it was a fun song to write. In terms of what it's about, I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly, because the lyrics were really stream of consciousness, and I went back and tried to make sense of them and maybe write some sense into them and make them make sense. But I feel like it's more of just like an emotional soundscape, and I just hope people are able to kind of inject their own story into it and hear something that resonates with them.
Are you looking forward to performing live in concert again when it is safe to do so?
Oh my God, yes. I miss playing live shows so much. I've been really lucky down here in Florida. We've been able to open limited capacity shows, and I've been doing some shows outdoors with my band that are, socially distanced or masks are required. Different measures are being taken to keep people safe. So I'm lucky I've been able to kind of tide myself over with one show every couple of months. But yeah, I'm very ready to get back on the road like I was before.
Who have been some of your favorite people and projects to work with?
Oh man, everybody, every single person I've ever worked with has been amazing. I've been extremely lucky through my entire career, but I think Sean Mullins is just one of the absolute greatest people I have ever met in my life. Like, not just music stuff, Sean is the guy that sings the hit song Lullaby that came out in 98. It's the everything's gonna be all right, rockabye. So he and I connected after playing a few shows together, and we were actually about to go on tour together before all the COVID stuff happened. But in the meantime, while I was working on this record, he and I actually co-wrote a couple of songs together, and we've started talking about working on a project together. And he actually just had me sit in for his virtual variety show as part of the Kayamo Cruise, which is a really awesome music festival that goes out on the water. And he's just included me in a lot of things and helped open doors for me as an up-and-coming artist. And I'm just extremely grateful for someone to have listened to my songs and just been willing to put some time and effort into helping me. Because, when you're first starting out in this industry, it's ruthless. It's very hard to get a foothold. So to have somebody, reach their hand out and help me climb that mountain has been just awesome. He's a really awesome guy.
What was the coolest thing that happened to you during your career, and how did the pandemic affect everything?
Ooh, the coolest thing that's happened. Well, I mean, man, a lot of really cool things have happened over the years. It's just different aspects of my career and everything. But I think one of the more recent ones was I was working on getting this record done, Nice to Meet You, and one of the engineers that was working on mixing and mastering the songs ended up not being able to finish the project just because of personal stuff that came up. And so I was sitting around trying to figure out what I was going to do with these recordings and how I was going to get the record done and how we were going to get it to sound good. And actually, the song Giving You Up has reminded people of Alabama Shakes, at least so I've been told. And so I was sitting in the house a couple months ago, and my dad and I were brainstorming about what we were going to do. And he was like, doesn't Giving You Up remind people of Alabama Shakes? And I was like, yeah. He's like, why don't you reach out to the guy that mixed and mastered Alabama Shakes last record? And I'm like, Dad, his name is Sean Everett. I'm like, Sean Everett is never going to take this record. That's crazy. But I reached out to his management just to see, because you never know where things are going to go. And they actually answered me, and Sean wasn't taking projects on at that point in time, but another artist, Dan Malad, who is actually the drummer of the band Lucius, if you've ever listened to them, they were like, hey, Dan is taking projects on. So I ended up working with Dan, and then Dan recommended a mastering engineer to really wrap up the project. And I ended up working with Joe Laporta, who has won Grammys for working on Wasting Light by the Foo Fighters and David Bowie's Black Star. And to have worked with people who have worked with artists of that caliber is just bonkers to me. It's definitely one of the coolest things that's happened. But I think what made it so cool was the uncertainty that led me to that point, because I had zero clue how that record was going to get done until all of those dots got connected.
What's your favorite genre of music?
Oh man, I love it all, but I always find myself going back to either indie rock or like Motown and old school soul stuff. And actually this record was kind of me trying to create a love child between those two worlds.
And before we wrap up our show, we got one last extra special question for you.
Yeah.
So, do you like to travel? And if so, which countries and states have you visited in your lifetime?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that question. I am obsessed with traveling. I have gone backpacking all through Europe, and I actually studied abroad in Australia, and I lived there for about 6 or 7 months, and it was absolutely incredible. Gosh, what all did I do? I went and backpacked and camped around Uluru. I went and scuba dived by the Great Barrier Reef. I went to Sydney, I went to Melbourne, and then on my way back home, I stopped in Thailand. I stopped in Amsterdam, Prague, Munich. I've been a lot of different places, and I really, really love traveling. I love just the freedom that comes with being in a place where no one knows you and no one has any expectations of what you should do or who you should be. And I love hearing people's stories. You know, you meet so many different people, all walks of life, and I cannot wait to get back to doing stuff like that when COVID calms down. I already have a few trips that are just hanging in limbo on hold, but I'm actually supposed to be having, I think, my 5-year reunion with all my Australian friends from study abroad next year. So hopefully that'll be able to happen, because that would be really cool. Yeah, traveling is honestly one of my favorite things in the world. Honestly, it's part of the reason why I love touring so much, because it's like I get to travel and play music to a bunch of people all at the same time, and it's the freaking best. It's the best job ever.